Till now, almost we have crossed 23 or 25 days of this internship. 2, 3 more days are left. So basically, this is 28. So basically, we already covered 27 days in this internship, and we are left with only 3 classes. So right now we are at the end of this internship, and during this internship, you guys have got a pretty good idea about how to deal with client, how to take over a project, how to start thinking on it, how to initiate the work, how to actually conceptualize the plan, keeping all these client requirements in your mind, then how to draft a plan after all in the software, in a CAD software, then taking it to SketchUp, adding the detailings, the exterior detailings, and as well as the interior designing and the basic concept of it. So basically, main point of view of this internship, I think you have might have already realized that we have covered the different aspects of the software, but not in very detail, because the main motto or the intention of this internship was not to teach you any software, but to teach you how to use the software. You can explore a software, you can learn all the tools by spending some time in the software, you can learn the tools and use of it. But at least if you have the concept, like how to think and what to think, like there is two different things. One is getting dependent on the tools, and another thing is generating an idea and executing that idea through the tools. So the second one is the one which I prefer, and I would also suggest every one of you that first you come up with something idea that should be outside of the software. Make it a sketch in a paper, or make it in kind of rough planning or rough designing, rough 3D modeling, or rough those rough elevations as well. Then open the software and try to execute that into that software. So that those are the things. That's how your workflow should be. Now, as you have got a pretty much idea about how these things actually work, now it comes down to the price. This is the very important thing. Actually, I thought of teaching you this in the very beginning of the internship, but then I realized that no, at least first you should learn and experience what are the hurdles, what are the steps you need to follow and proceed in order to complete a project. So till this moment, or till this 28 day of the internship, you have already crossed 27 days, and I think around 25 or 24 sessions in this. So till now you have done something. Those who haven't done something, they will not understand this importance, but those who are trying to do something or have done something, they will understand how much problem they have faced or what are the challenges they have faced. So that actually help you to understand the value of your work. Because if you are stepping into the market and if you are going to sell your talent, basically, because if this is your skill, interior designing is your skill, architectural drafting is your skill, or 3D modeling or 2D planning or whatever it is, if these are your skill set, you are going to do this to make your living or to earn something, and for that you have to sell your work. And you cannot sell your work at a deserving price until unless you yourself value your work. And to understand a value of something, you have to first know it and experience it very well. So the people who have done something or trying to do something during this internship, like they have done created some plannings or they have created some 3D models and etc., so they will understand how much they have put their hard work or time behind making that particular model. So you will now understand that what should be the charge for this. Like, never underestimate your hard work, and at the same time don't overestimate as well. But in some cases, when you get established, in that cases, with the value, you can overestimate your own value. But that moment or that stage of your life hasn't come yet. At least in this moment, you shouldn't underestimate your hard work. So all these things I'm saying because now I'm going to explain you how to charge properly. And this is very important because maybe you can learn this kind of course, or you can get this kind of course in many places. I don't think there are so many places where you can get this kind of course, but if still there it is, but this is something which will not be included in any kind of course, because even after learning the things, you don't know how to charge. And it is not that you will create something and randomly charge 1k, 2k, 3k, 5k, and maybe the client is convinced and he will give you the job and the payment as well. But that doesn't mean that you are doing business. Doing business means you are properly valuing your product or your service, and also like incorporating all the things, because the charge of I'll talk about it in later slides. So let's just start this. So I'd like to like state three small statements, that before you charge something properly, you need to bring value to your work or bring value to your project. Then you need to build contrast between a good project and a bad project. You need to build that contrast in the client's mind. So it doesn't mean that always you have to bring a comparison or a contrast between a good project or a bad project, but at least you need to build some contrast to show the value of your work. That means if I say whether I am taller or not, that depends on the other person that is standing beside me, whether he is shorter than me or he is taller than me. So you can understand that there is a reference or a point which you need to choose in order to create a contrast of your own work. So in that way, you can build a contrast and bring some value to your project and justify your price. So bringing a value is the first and foremost thing, because without value, if you maybe your work is not that up to the mark, but you are very good at negotiation and all those things, you will get the job, but not for long run. This is not appropriate for long run or large projects, because whenever you are taking it very seriously, I mean this freelancing or whatever you say, this particular field, if you are taking it seriously, in that case you have to bring the quality and the value into your work. Because when you will be negotiating, on what basis you will counteract all the client's question? At the end of the every conversation, it will come down to the quality and the value of the project, the value of the service you are going to provide to the client. So you need to create the value, you need to build the contrast, and always try to be a problem solver. Because it is not like you will always advertise your work or promote your work, but it is that your clients will actually speak for yourself if he or she is satisfied. So always try to solve the problem of the client, exactly for what purpose or what reason he or she has come to you. Okay. So if you solve her problem properly, in that case, what will happen, that you will leave some kind of a very good impression in his mind, and that will help also you to get the next projects, and also to create a good image. Like you can also understand that why I'm saying this, that be a problem solver. Because instead of being a problem solver, if you try to always be a good technically genius guy who knows everything and who can do any kind of project, in that case what happens, you will try to, in order to scale your business or scale your freelancing career, or in order to grow this particular thing, what you will do, you will create some sorts of ads, you will marketize yourself, you will promote your works and all those things. You can understand a very simple, I will give you a very simple example. Whenever you are watching a video on YouTube, if the ads comes in the very first of the video, what is the common thing you do? You just get your thumb on the skip button. When the 5 seconds will be over, you will press the skip button. Because why? Because nobody likes ads. let it be a ad of Apple, let it be a ad of Samsung or whatever, how many big brand it is, but nobody like ads, advertisements. So don't think that people are interested in your work. Never. If you talk about the friends or the circle you belong to, that means the if you are an architect, maybe your circle is surrounding the architecture students or architecture people. They may be getting interest in your work because they understand the value of the hard work that you have put in. But from a common client's point of view, nobody gives two double dash in your works. That simply as simple as that. Nobody is interested to see your ads. Nobody is interested to listen to your hard work and all those stuffs unless until he or she is becoming a client. He is not interested to listen to your stuffs. Obviously, why should he listen to you? So in that case, why will people prefer you over other people? That's why I always say that first try to be a problem solver. That even after a finish of your project, finishing the completing a project, the client should have an impression on his mind that okay, there was a guy or there was a, I mean, whether you are a boy or girl, there was an architect or an engineer who did this project and helped me to save this much amount of money. So that will be the impression, and if you help someone, it always leaves a good impression in his or her mind, and it always reverts back in some way, maybe after 2 years, 3 years, maybe in the next month or in the next project, or maybe he will refer you to someone. So that is the thing, always try to be a problem solver. Obviously you are doing business, you are going to do business, you are going to earn money, but if your approach is being a problem solver, obviously people will come to you, and definitely you will, business and money, all these things, this will come alongside. Don't worry about that. So without wasting so much of time, let's just directly get to the topic. So, talking about how to charge properly, I'd like to share that there are different kinds of pricing strategies based on your work. So, first, the cost plus pricing. So, this cost plus pricing, then there is a marginal cost pricing, then target ROI pricing, that is target return of investment pricing. Then there is experience curve pricing, demand based pricing, psychological pricing, and competition oriented pricing. So I'll quickly elaborate all these different kinds of pricing strategies, and then I'll suggest you what should be the pricing strategies for you. Never think that the one I'll suggest will be applicable for each one of you present in this internship, because it depends. It depends from person to person. It depends on how you work, on which kind of project you are involved into. These are some of the very basic popular cost pricing strategies people follow in market, but there are n number of pricing strategies. So these are the very popular ones. Okay, so first coming to the cost plus pricing. So this particular type of pricing basically includes your cost, the cost that you have involved in making the product or in providing the service. So in our case sorry, so in our case, let's take an example that you are working in a project where you are supposed to do an interior design. Okay, so what are the costs that are involved in making an interior designing? How much you are going to invest? Can anyone answer? Because let's make it interactive, or else it will be difficult for you to understand this huge concept of cost and pricing and strategies. Let's just make it interactive. Any one of you, like, what do you think if you are handed over a project of interior designing? What are the what are the investments that you are going to make? Anyone? Apurv?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what do you think that if you are dealing with an interior designing project, you just have to give an interior design, a rendered picture, that's all, and the cost estimations of the material specifications and all those things.
I'm investing my knowledge and experience.
Okay, That's good. And anything else? Time, obviously.
Yeah, time.
Time. Apart from that, anything comes to your mind? So what do you think? This interior designing is what do I say, a zero investment startup or zero investment freelancing field? Obviously, because you are not investing any
Yes,
other things. But no, that is wrong. If you are a architect who's gonna design something, or you're an interior designer, what happens when you take some project and start working on it, you think that I'm only investing my time and I'm investing my knowledge, as Aput said, and I also like like sharing my experience or using my experience, and I'm like investing nothing else. But wrong. The laptop you will be using, the Wi-Fi internet connection you will be using, the place where you will be sitting to do the job, the amount of I can say refreshment you will be taking, all this comes into the picture. Because without this supply of food or the common facilities, without the shelter, let's don't talk about the shelter. Even if you don't have an office, I'm just considering, let's also exclude that, but at least you'll be needing a good laptop, rendering engine, I mean say a good PC system, a good internet connection as well. So all these things are investment, but we don't see them as an investment, right? Because we are already having them. So why do you see them as an investment? And that is the thing when you are underpricing yourself, because you just understand that okay, I am investing this much of time, so whatever the money I get, it's beneficial to me because I haven't like spent a money at all. But no, you have spent. So these are like fixed cost. If you are like already comfortable with the term of fixed cost and variable cost in a project management, you'll understand this. Fixed cost are the things that you purchase for a time and it will run for a longer period. For example, to run a factory, you need to purchase some machineries. Those are fixed costs. But the variable costs will be the labor that will be working, the raw material that you will be using to manufacture that product, right? So in here, in this case, your fixed cost is the laptop or the system that you are going to use. So you need to also incorporate that thing in your price. So obviously you will not like include the whole, let's say the system is of 1 lakh rupees, you will not include that. Obviously, if you are providing a simple interior, so what we will do, you will just like break it down to some parts, that maybe I am using 5 hours of internet, so I should at least charge this much, 500 rupees for that. In that way, it depends on, completely depends on you, but I am asking just you that you should include all those things. And that's how a cost plus pricing is calculated. Because in freelancing, it is very much, fluctuating. It depends on the freelancer or the person who is gonna charge it. But when you'll be like running an organization, in that case you have to purchase the systems, rent an office for your work, and you have to pay the electricity bill, maybe the food and common refreshment charges and all those things. So all those are included in this cost plus pricing, and that's how a cost plus pricing is decided. So I think you got a pretty basic idea about what cost plus pricing is, and it is also applicable in architectural projects as well. Then comes the marginal cost pricing. This particular thing will not work for us because we are not manufacturing any kind of product. So in product manufacturing, this marginal cost pricing concept comes. But as this is a service based, this is kind of a service you are providing. So in that case, this particular pricing strategy will not work. Then target ROI pricing. This is also some kind of, you can relate it to architectural projects, because return of investment means that, for example, you have set it up your office, okay, where you are going to work. So first you calculate that what is the rent of my office for 10 years. If I'm going to run this business for 10 years, what will be the price of that? If I'm going to purchase this particular PC system, what will be the including his purchasing cost, then the servicing of that particular thing, 10 years electricity bill, and all those things. This comes to the investment. And then in 10 years, what will be the interest of that particular investment? So let's say you have invested 100 rupees to set up your office, including all the electricity and all those other facilities, and then you are calculating it as 10% of interest rate. So that comes down to 110 rupees, and you are thinking that I have invested 110 rupees for 10 years. So in 10 years, I'll be investing this much amount of money into my organization or my startup. So what should be the return of investment? Let's say you want a return of investment of 200 rupees. Okay, so you need to make a profit of 100 rupees. So how many projects you will do in that period, and what will be the percentage of profit in each of these projects? So that's how you calculate this. But this is a bit complicated, but this is very much useful when you are running an organization with different investors. So in that case, the pricing will help. Then also comes this experience curve pricing. Experience curve pricing doesn't relate with your experience, but it is based on the market experience. For example, let's say you are providing an architectural service. Let's say architecture has been introduced to this world from 2010. Let's just assume. So in 2010, architectures had no value. Let's assume zero value. Architects were like, don't mind it, I'm just giving an example. So let's say architecture thing, or this world of architecture was introduced to world in 2010. So in 2010, the market was completely zero. Let's just assume. Then in 2015, maybe it increased the value of the architects, the number of projects or the number of buildings that are taking architectural aspects and considering all these things, like they are going for architectural detailing and designing. So the value has increased. So then in 2020, maybe it has come down by a little bit. So from this particular experience curve, you can, kind of imagine or kind of predict that what is going to be the trend of the next upcoming 5 years. And based on that, you have to charge. That's come from your experience curve pricing. And it not only the world demand, but it also depends on small scale things. Like, for example, in your area, let's suppose you belong from an area which is a very developing city. Let's take an example of Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar is already, like, it is declared as the smart city. So it is basically, Bhubaneswar is a developing place. So in places like Bhubaneswar, if you are doing your business, you can easily understand that things are developing in a very faster rate. So to maintain that rate or to maintain that trend, you need to also charge accordingly. And that comes from this curve, experience curve pricing. Then the demand-based pricing. Demand-based pricing is something that it actually depends on your competition as well. So demand-based pricing and competition-oriented pricing, they are slightly bit different, but demand-based pricing is what? Let's suppose that, again, take the example of Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar is a place which is developing very fast. A lot of construction works are going around there, but in ratio to that, there are not so many architects, or there are not so many structural consultants. So in that case, your demand is high, but the supply is very less. So you can, like, control the market. There is a chance that you can control the market, you can control the price. Obviously, you have to always think that my price or that shouldn't be so high that people start hiring people from outside of Bhubaneswar. But if you are staying inside of Bhubaneswar, people has a trend that people of Bhubaneswar will already, like, they'll hire people around Bhubaneswar only. So in that case, what happened? If there are very few people in the market of Bhubaneswar, that those who does this 3D modeling stuffs, so you can control the price in that case. You will bring some kind of value and quality to your work, and you can, like, charge anything. Anything, I mean, say anything. But obviously, you need to also consider the other aspects as well. So that's how the demand-based pricing actually depends, and not only depending on the number of people in that area, but also maybe that your product is unique. For suppose you do some ancient, like you are a specialized ancient architect. What I mean to say is that your specialization in on ancient architecture, or let's say Vedic architecture, you have specialized on that field. And let's say Bhubaneswar is considered as the city of temple, right? So your architecture basically focuses on this ancient Vedic architecture, and people has a tendency to build those kind of ancient structures in modern day of today as well. So they like this kinds of structure. So in that case, what will happen? You will have a huge demand in the market, and it's like you are the unique in Bhubaneswar who is doing this thing. So in that case, you can charge anything. Don't like think of any other option. You can charge anything you want because you have that demand. You are having a quality which is unique, and that is the thing which will increase your demand. Then comes this psychological pricing. Psychological pricing, I'll say this comes under the reverse marketing strategies and all those things. Like psychological pricing, what can I say? Suppose you have started your organization and you put an ad that I am introducing a new kind of, let's say, green architecture. I'm introducing green architecture and it will launch from 15th August 2020. But if you wants to do a pre-booking, I'll do it for 50% discount. Let's say that this particular project or this particular category of design will cost you 10K. But if you do it or pre-book it now, I'll do it for 5K. And that is no kind of like, this is not bluffing. You are genuinely, you will increase the price to 10K in 15th August. So in that case, even if some people don't hire your service, after 15th August, what they will realize that this guy was charging 5K for that in that time, and now he's charging 10K for that. I should have like purchased it or took his service in during that period, because he was giving some kind of discounts, and now he is charging this much high. So obviously it generally like creates an image of you, like you are a premium service provider, like you value your work, and people who didn't took your service, they will just afsos karenge simply. I don't have that particular word. So they'll just think of that I should have taken this particular service. So this is called a psychological pricing. I gave a particular example, but there are a lot of things which comes under psychological pricing. So you'll play with people's emotion and people way of thinking. Then comes this competition oriented pricing. So basically it is completely that if you have a unique style in your design, I'm talking to the architects or the interior designer, like if you are unique at something, you have some special type of skill set, you can tend or go towards the demand based pricing, because you are providing something which has demand, but not many people can do that. But if you are, and I'll not say an average architect, because having a special quality doesn't make you a very good architect. You are special at something, but there are many architects who doesn't have any special kind of speciality or any particular niche. I would say that word, that is a perfect word for this, that an architect who doesn't have a niche, but at the same time he is doing well in the market, because whatever he knows, maybe 100 other architects also know that, but he's doing that very well in a very proper manner. So in that case, you have to, if you come under that category, that you are like other 10 or other 100 architects, so in that case, to sustain in the market, you need to follow the competition oriented pricing. That means simply you need to provide an affordable rate, and maybe one of the cheapest rate in the market, available in the market. So from business point of view, to grab a business or to make your own identity in the initial stages, competition oriented pricing is good or fine. But in long run, I would say that try to go or tend towards demand based pricing, like create your demand, create your own unique style and all those things. So till now, any one of you I haven't till discussed the pricing that I prefer till now. I'll like discuss that in the next slide, and I also suggest you to do the same. So till now, anyone is having any kind of doubt? Hello? Like I have been telling so many things. So are you guys getting it? Like till now, what do you think? What should be the pricing strategy for, or what is the pricing strategy that fits your style? Anyone? Or everything is going above your mind? Just don't worry. I think most of you are from second year and third years, or maybe some are from final years. But maybe this is not the moment for you to understand these things. But obviously, once you'll be graduating and start taking these things seriously, like you'll be seriously focusing on your career, or maybe you'll be seriously focusing on this freelancing field. So in that case, this particular lecture or this particular things, those things will help you a lot, because it's not only about taking a project, doing and submitting it, but at the end of the day, you have to justify your own hard work by the reward. And the reward may not be the price all the time. In most of the cases, it is the price or the charge or the money you will be making, but also at the same time, it may be the value of the project. Maybe you are not getting a good amount in pay or good amount of money, you are not getting paid, but maybe you are involved in a very a very huge sized project, maybe a very big project. You are like working as an intern under a famous architect. So that is a kind of reward also. So now, like after discussing all these kinds of pricing strategies, what I think that which suits me or my style or my thinking the most, or maybe even most of you as well, that is value-based pricing. Like this is the particular pricing strategy that I follow. So before I go to value-based pricing, okay, let's just talk about it. So what is value-based pricing? So I have like splitted it into four parts. That first is that evaluate the customer need and the value. So in order to do the value-based pricing of your work, like if you have produced some architectural drawings or 3D interior designs, so in order to like evaluate your project or the work you have done, you can follow these value-based pricing strategies, which I will suggest you. And this actually covers all the aspects and take care of all the things. So the first and foremost thing you need to do is that evaluate the customer need and value. So what I'm trying to say that maybe you are doing a simple residential project. The example we have already taken in this internship. Maybe you are doing that particular project. Okay. So first you need to evaluate the customer's need. Maybe the customer is having a very small area to be built up. That means you are dealing with maybe 500 to 600 square feet area, a very small project. But he needs a lot of things, lot of detailings, lot of specifications he wants. So in that case, what happens that your customer needs are very much higher. But if you charge him on the basis of the area or the square feet, you are not justifying your hard work. Okay, maybe the customer wants that. Okay, I am expecting some kind of modular housing. At the same time, I want to also consider vastu, and also I want to go for some green materials, right? Because as an architect, you will also be providing him some kind of material specifications. What will be the material placed at different places of the building? Because you are providing the design, maybe the facade. What will be the material of the particular facade? So in that case, maybe the customer wants a green building, green materials and all those things. So maybe in that case, what happens? Your construction on the built up area is very small. That is a very small scale project. But at the same time, the hard work you're putting, maybe it is greater than even bigger projects. So in that case, you cannot like just only depend on the number of the area or the value. You need to understand the value, the exact value of the project. What are the needs of the client? Based on that, you need to price, you need to charge. And also the value of the project. Maybe you are doing a detailing for a temporary house. Let's suppose take example of staff quarters. In government staff quarters, what happens? Someone comes and stays for 2-3 years of his job period or job life, then he leaves. So in those cases, you don't need to like consider so much, or you don't need to focus so much on the aesthetic. Maybe a little bit on the aesthetics, but you don't need to focus so much on the very details, because the project is very much valueless. I mean very low valued project. But at the same time, maybe you are doing an interior of an office. You cannot just randomly design anything, because an interior on office like impacts a lot. It impacts the people's mindset who are walking into this office. It will impact the client's thinking, or the client's it will leave some kind of impression in the client's mind who will be coming into that office for meeting. So it will ultimately impact the business. So you need to understand the value. I'll also give you a very simple example. Like all of you have seen the logo of Nike. So you can see this is a very simple logo, a tick mark, right? So what do you think that to only design that tick mark, how many how much the graphics designer or the logo designer would have charged? You can just Google it. To design that tick mark only, he has charged, I think, in millions of euros. So that is the value. Why? Maybe to do that, he have taken 1 or 2 months. But like I'm including all the research and all those things through whatever he have gone through. But still, he has come up with a tick mark, and for that tick mark only, he is charging millions of euros and dollars. So why? Because of the value. Because Nike is a brand. In the initial stages, when Nike was building its brand, it tried to build this an impression, a brand message. The tagline of Nike is just do it. That means if you are having some kind of plan, just execute it. Don't think too much, just do it. Tick sign means that, just do it. And that actually helps these brand identities and all those things. I'm actually deviating from the topic, but I'm giving a good example, like how value is created. In the same way, if it was a very small company, the same designer, if he was assigned to design a logo for a very small, let's say they were like assigned to design a logo for Dayan. Obviously, he wouldn't have charged that much. He will not charge in millions, because in his eyes, this is a very startup company at a very base level, like 1.5 years of experience our company is having. And also there are so many things, but we are not as big much or as grown up as Nike. So that's why the value differs there. So to do a same logo, you will not charge the same price. It depends on the value, because once Nike or any such kind of brand creates a logo, they will carry that logo for the rest of their life. It will be printed on all their products, like the shoes, the sweaters, the caps, or whatever they are producing. It will be printed on all those things. So you can understand, if at a certain point of time Nike thinks of changing their logo, how many products they have to reprint and do all those things. So it is a huge headache. That is the value of a logo. It's not a tick mark. You see the consequences and the story behind it. So that is how I just gave you an example. That is how you also need to look your project that much seriously. If you are designing an office interior, You need to think from that prospect, how this office interior is gonna affect my client or the client's client. That means the people who will be coming here for a deal discussion or whatever the thing is, or how it will affect the environment, the people who will be working in this, how it will like adjust the the ecosystem, how it will affect it. So all these things will answer you that what is the value of that project, and also the seriousness you need to consider in this case. So that's how you evaluate a customer needs and values. Then the second step is that you set the target price to reflect the customer value. For example, let's suppose that someone, let's take example that who are the architect friends we are having. Let's say Chanchal. I think Chanchal is an architect. I mean, studying architecture. So let's suppose that Chanchal got placed in a very reputed architectural firm. So then what happens that some people, sorry, I'm like, don't get me wrong. I'm correcting the situation. Let's suppose that Chanchal is a freelancer and some huge architectural firm or a big brand has come to Chanchal to design an interior for the office or some kind of situation like that. So in that case, let's suppose Chanchal has got a very good imagination or very good picture of what she's gonna draw or what she's gonna design and provide. And then the firm or the organization asks Chanchal that, Chanchal, what should be your price? What is the price of this design? And Chanchal says that, okay, for this project, I'm gonna charge 5K. So what will be the exact reaction in the client's mind? 5K, because that company is such a huge company, and the building that will be gonna build, maybe it's on huge area, it's a huge project, and with like daily 100 of employees will be sitting in that building, or coming like 100 and thousands of people will be using that building in a year. So what will he think? Immediately he will turn down the like project. He'll not give it to Chanchal, because you know why? Even after seeing his past works and all those design ideas, Chanchal will not get the job, because Chanchal charged only 5K. So you need to charge according to the value of the customer, and this happens many of the times. People like the high cadre clients or the top notch clients, I mean the big fishes of the market, whenever they is investing into something, they always want the best output, and at the same time they think of a very long run. So in that case, what happens? If you are charging, maybe you can provide a very good result, I mean very good interior design, but still you will not get that job, because you are underpricing that. And instead of 5,000, if you like charge in lakhs or the proper price that should be charged, so what will happen? He will have a image in his mind like, okay, she is charging, demanding this much. That means she will do this job very seriously, because she is charging in lakhs. Instead of 5,000, she is charging 5 lakhs. Maybe it is overpriced as well. Maybe the company is having a budget of 2 lakhs and you are charging or saying him 5 lakhs. So in that case, even they will consider whether, but they will consider the other aspects like how much serious are you, what is your experience, and what are the past works you have done. But at least they'll take you seriously. Like undervaluing something, it's kind of insult to them. If you are undervaluing some client's work or some client's project, so you are indirectly insulting them. So in that case, you will not get the job. How good you may be, still you will not get that job. So that is the thing. You need to set the target price to reflect the customer's value. As I already gave you example of Nike, then you need to they charged millions to reflect the value of Nike, and that is the thing. And also the third step is that determine costs and competitive differentiation. This is kind of comes from economy, that the cost curve you need to study that, or the competitive differentiation. That means that you shouldn't charge very high so that the like deal is never gonna happen. So like don't overestimate or overvalue the project as well. That is the thing. And competitive differentiation, that means that even if the client turns down your project, or like he doesn't do the business with you, he's gonna hire another architect. But at the same time, still the last value you will be quoting him. It will be staying in his mind when the organization will be talking to another architect. So in that case, what will happen, that he will have an impact that okay, the previous architect, that means Chanchal, has asked me for this price, and this architect is asking for this price. So he'll have a like good comparison and get an idea about what is the seriousness of these architects and what are the product they are gonna get like. So you need to provide a competitive differentiation. So your value shouldn't be too high or too less, and then deliver a product that meets and exceeds the value. That means I'll also actually, I think you guys are a bit confused with the third and fourth point. I think the first and second point is clear, and third and fourth point I'll give you an example and like make you understand this thing. So what you do, you first like evaluate the customer's need. Okay, I'm like giving a complete summary of this thing. You're first evaluating the customer's need, exactly what are the customer's requirement is, how much you need to work for this. Then you are estimating the value of the project. Okay, the value of the project, the seriousness of the project, or how much it is gonna cost the customer. Okay, so then you are targeting a price, and how you actually like quote the price to the customer or the to the client. You first giving an example that based on your value and all those things, like I'm gonna charge you, let's say 30k, 30,000 I'm gonna charge for this small building, modeling and all those things. You are asking for that, and then the client is like he will be shocked and ask you to justify your price. Why are you gonna take 30,000 for this small 1600 60 like 600 square feet area, this small building? Why you are gonna charge this much? So in that case, you will justify your price by bringing in contrast the comparison of the value of the project and the customer's need. And you'll also tell him that to meet your certain requirements and needs, I need to do this research. Okay, then I'm going to come up with some best solutions that will be the very much most suitable for you. So like quickly take him through the the hurdle you will be struggling, or the phase through which you will be going. Okay, so he'll have a pretty good idea about, okay, this architect who is talking to me right now, she is gonna do a lot of work to meet my requirements. And at the same time, after like giving him all those things, okay, you just at the last end, you try to cut down the price by a little bit. So obviously the first price you'll be targeting or like putting in frame in front of him, you should quote a higher price. Then you come to a lower price, but not much. It's not like you will first quote a price of 30k, and then after a little bit of bargaining and all those meetings, you will decide the project to be done at 15k. So it will like your value at the like suddenly your value will decrease in front of the client, because you just a few minutes back asked him a price of 30k, and now you are charging 15k. So don't do that. If you really want to do this project for 15k, 15k, so in that case you at least start with 18k or maybe 20k. So that is the thing. You shouldn't like lower your value that very much. So the client, what will happen? The client will This is not a cloth or garment shop that you are giving 50% discount. You are charging for the hard work and the time you will be investing in this project. So don't underestimate your hard work, and don't let the client think that you are underestimating your hard work as well. It will create a negative impact. So frame a higher rate and then come down to like cut the cost by a little bit, and then come to a like close the deal. That's the simple. And also like deliver a product that meets and exceeds the value. That means when you'll be delivering the product, maybe the client was expecting this things, and you have like added a cherry on the cake. You can understand what I'm trying to say. Just a little bit of something which is quite visible at the time of delivery. Okay. So maybe you are providing some kind of product, give it a good wrapping, give it a good packaging. You are providing some kind of 3D, like give it a good render with some other exterior elements. Like the representation should be good, and also at the same time you'll add some kind of extra value to the project. Not very much that will like consume your time, but like to impress the client more, or actually like make him overwhelmed, you should like add a cherry on the cake. That is a thing optional, but at least you should do that. So what will happen that he'll think, okay, for this price I was supposed to get this thing, but I will also get this extra. So it actually leaves a very good impression. And not only I'm talking about India, but this is applicable in all over the world. This is a common mindset of people. People are living on expectations. They're paying something, they're expecting something. And what they're expecting? The thing that you have already discussed in the first meeting. In the first meeting, you'll be making him clear that these are the things I will be providing you for this price. The deal is done, closed. And at the end of the project, you are like delivering him all the exact things with something extra, a very little amount maybe, but something extra. So that is how you like deal the value-based pricing. Okay. And like, are you guys like getting it? I want your response, because I'm not sure whether you are getting it or not. Because if you are into freelancing field, these are the very important things you need to consider, or else you cannot like sustain in the market. So this is in a picture. I can like share it, like say it this way, that pricing your product as a certain percentage of the value created by it. That means you will price your product. Okay. That means the product, in this case, service, maybe a service, maybe the 3D you are producing, you are calling it as a product. So you are gonna price it as per the value. Let's suppose the perceived, like for example, if the building or the construction, the complete project is of worth 30 lakh rupees, and you are creating 3D interior designing for that. So maybe you are charging 50,000 or maybe 1 lakh rupees. Let's just assume that. So you need to justify your price. That comes under the client negotiation and dealing thing. But what happens after once you convince your client that yes, my work is worth 1 lakh rupees, because the 30 lakh rupees you'll be investing, you are gonna build it one time. And if you don't do interior designing and all these things properly, these are the harms that can affect your business, or these are the negative points of it. Okay, you are not, if you don't utilize space properly, if you don't consider vastu, and whatever the things that you can convince, you will say that these are the things, if you don't do it right now before the construction start, these are the problems that you can face after the completion of the construction. So sir, what do you think? You are gonna risk your 30 lakh rupees for only just 50,000, or what do you think, sir? So in that way, you are building the contrast. Now the client is not comparing a drawing sheet with 50,000 rupees, because in the beginning of the meeting, he was like astonished with the, shocked with the price tag of 50,000, because he was just assuming that at the end of the day, this architect will provide me a drawing sheet, right? a printed 3D image on it. So for a single piece of paper, a drawing, an image, this architect is going to charge me 50,000. Obviously, nobody will give you that project and then like think that, okay, this is way too expensive. If the client is not having idea about the architects. So obviously it will seem expensive to him. But now you have like introduced a situation and now he is thinking, okay, so I'm like risking my 30 lakh rupees. So it is not about the one piece of paper. It is about the complete project that I'm going to invest. So now he is bringing a comparison between 30 lakh rupees, the total project cost, and the 50,000 rupees that you are going to charge. Or maybe don't even consider 50,000, maybe let it be 30,000. So it's almost the, how much it is? 1%. 30,000, yeah, 1% of it. So now the client is thinking, okay, so whether I'm going to risk my 100 rupees for 1 rupee only. No, this price is justifiable, and I think the client, like the architect, deserves it. And that is how you like value your project, and you price your project. And that is what value-based pricing is. You need to bring a like bring value in front of the client's eyes or in the client mind. Then you need to build a contrast that this is the value of your work and I'm doing it in a lesser price. So that's why this image has been shown here. This white bar, this is showing the perceived value. What should be the project value? And this is the your price. You are charging a bit less. And that is the moment when the client will realize that, okay, this architect is actually charging me less. Right? So that is how you like value-based pricing work, and that should be your strategy actually. So till now, did you guys like got a pretty good idea about what is this? And I'm just taking an example of architect in this case because this internship is about architecture. But don't consider it like it is applicable for architecture. No, it is applicable in any industry. It is applicable in any kind of industry. Let it be manufacturing industry, let it be any kind of service, anything. If you are able to build the value-based pricing strategy into your work, if you once master this value-based pricing, you'll just beat anyone. What will happen then? The other architects who are like generally approaching the very number based pricing, that means the square feet based pricing, quantity based pricing, they will do 100 projects and earn something, and you will do 2 projects and earn the same thing. So which is the better option? You will get more time to put those 2 important projects rather than doing 10 different small projects. In the initial stage, obviously you need to do small projects, but from the very beginning, I'm asking you to start valuing your project. Maybe in the initial stages, the people you will be trying to convince, they'll not listen to your words because you are not having experience, they will say. But if you talking from this perspective, you'll understand that this architect is having something different. Okay. And that's how you bring your value. Don't consider that even if you are a very good architect or a very good designer, it doesn't mean that you are a very good businessman or you are going to earn very much. No. In order to close the deal, you need to have the mindset, you need to know how to properly price your product or the service, and you need to also have that business mindset, because your work will show the value, but you are the person who is gonna transfer the value from the piece of paper to the client's mind. That is how it works. So till now I have explained this thing very briefly and in very detail, but now I think a very common question, you will be thinking, okay sir, since the last 1 hour you have talked about value-based pricing and all these things, But what is the value? I mean, what is the number? How much should we charge? So don't worry about that. Your charges can be quantified by numbers. Okay. For example, hourly charges. Like, okay, fine. You are saying that you are gonna do value-based pricing, but maybe as a freelancer, when you are stepping into the field, maybe you don't get such clients who are convinced or who are okay with this value-based pricing thing. Maybe they are they don't take this kind of 3D stuffs very seriously. They just want a 3D. So in that case, obviously you cannot bring in contrast that value concept, because for the 3D is having no value. He just wanted as a, just a show purpose, or maybe to show the contractors that this is the type of house I'm gonna needing. Maybe he's not that much bothered about these architectural stuffs and on those environmental and all those things. So in that case, what you'll do, you cannot bring the concept of value. So you need to have some other alternative or escapes to work for that project. First of all, I will suggest you to not do that kind of project, because those are actually valueless. They will not add any kind of value to your own portfolio as well. But obviously, to start something, you need to earn something, right? Because you are starting, you are very new to this field. So in that case, you also need to, like, you will be desiring to take up any kind of project, let it be of any price. So in that case, how you can charge? So first one is hourly charges. You can base the charge on how much working hour you put behind that particular work. Let's say you are saying that, okay, I can do this, I'll charge hourly, and let's see how much generally I charge for making this kind of 3D modeling. I generally take 5 hours to 10 hours. So the charge will be this much amount per hour, and based on that, it will vary from 5 hours to 10 hours. I don't know how much hours it's gonna take. So that is the thing. When the clients gets the range, that means 5 hours to 10 hours, maybe 1000 per hour. So the project will cost from 5000 to 10,000. So in that case, the customer cannot, I mean, the client cannot cross question you, because you will be the one, he cannot monitor your working hour. Or maybe even if you are doing in front of him, maybe you can slow down the speed. So that is how you can also avoid hourly charges as well. If someone is forcing you to do a work based on the hours, let's say the client is saying you that I'm giving you 7 days, you do it easily. So in that case, can you do the hourly charge, like hourly charges? No, because he is giving you sufficient time. That doesn't mean that you will charge him very much, or in the vice versa as well. Maybe the client is needing, okay, I am in a hurry, I am got some serious issues, I want this 3D to be done in 1 day. So what will you do? You will just charge for 1 day. So you are you are in a very hurry, like you will leave all the works aside and focus on this particular work. So if you, in that case, if you do hourly charging, you are in ultimate loss, because you need to price more, because you are doing something in urgency. So in that case, hourly charges will not be applicable. That's why I don't prefer hourly charges at all. And if some client asks you to do hourly charges rate, like he asks you to that, I'd like to go for the hourly charges, just say me how much hours you gonna work behind this project, I'll charge you accordingly. So you can avoid hourly charges by saying that, sir, I can do this project in 1 day and save your 6 days from the 1 week you are going to provide me. So I can like save you 6 days time. So you are going to pay me less for that. And whether if I take 2 weeks to do this project, that means 14 days. So I may charge more, but will that be justifiable to you yourself? Like I'm taking for the same project, I'll be taking 14 days. I'll be wasting another 7 days for you. And I can get paid very much, I mean, higher for that, because I'm working for 14 days. So is the time based or the hourly charge is appropriate for you? So in that way, you can avoid hourly charging. Then comes the quantity based charges. Most of the people, I think, apart from the well established one, I mean the signature top cadre architects, like if I take example of India, like let's take example of Sanjay Puri, and like in global, let's say Jaha Hadid and all those people, all the interior designers and all, they basically has got a pretty good popularity, and you know they have developed their own styles. So they don't charge based on quantity. They follow the same value based pricing. All these people like follow this value based pricing. They don't work for hourly charges, they don't work for quantity based charges. But until unless you are on a place or on a stage where you can convince the client to pay you based on the value, you need to like go with these alternatives. So in that case, 99% of the people follow these quantity based charges. Even in many of my projects, I need to go for the quantity based charges because I cannot always convince people for that, like for the value, because in the initial stages you handle very low cadre clients who will not value your work and all those things, but still you have to go through that phase, right? Because to build something you need to start from the scratch. So that's why quantity based charge is a very reliable thing, but it is at the same time not always justificable. As I have already given you an example, let's suppose if you are doing quantity based charges, you can charge for like it depends from place to place, it depends from the client's needs and the details like uh, he want in the project. So for suppose for 3D modeling, you can decide your own rate. Like you can decide that okay, for residential project, any kind of residential project, for the exterior modeling part only, I'll charge 5K or I'll charge 10K. Or if you want to go by square feet prices, you can charge 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 4 rupees per square feet. So it depends. You can take that any kind of building, irrespective of the total floor area. I'm gonna charge this much. A single model, I'll be rendering 10,000 rupees. That can be your charge. And I'm just not giving you lump sum value, but these are the charges people like the well-established architect actually charge. For small house, maybe up from 0 to 1,000 square feet, I'll charge 10,000. That is their charge. Any size area coming into that particular range will charge 10,000. Or if you want to go by square feet, you can charge like 4 rupees, 5 rupees, all those kinds of things. But at the same time, you can understand easily that whether it is a 800 square feet building or a 1,000 square feet building, the amount of hard work or the amount of labor you will be, like the amount of time you will be investing, it is same. To make a 3D model of a 800 square feet building with the same kind of style sets and facades and all that, and to make a 3D modeling of a 1,000 square feet building area, you will be needing the same time, right? But you are getting paid less for the 800 square feet. So that's why I say that quantity based charge is also not a very good option always. You can put some lump sum amount, or else you can go with the quantity based charges, because the market is something like that. The lower cadre clients, they are already knowing the market rates, so they are very much aware, and they look for these kinds of people and the students like you who is just stepping into the field, and they are already knowing the market price, and according to that they are going to pay you. So you need to always try to avoid these kinds of clients, and always try to build good clients by showing them the value of your work. So quantity based charge is a good alternative to start your freelancing career, but at the same time I'll always suggest you that from the very beginning, you always try to charge on the base of the value of the project. That should be your mindset. And if the client is not ready to understand anything, but still you want to get the project, in that case you can take this hourly charging or quantity based charging. And the mixed charge is something I already actually explained, the lump sum amount. Maybe you can ask him like that, okay, for simple 3D modeling and a rendered picture, I'll charge 5,000. If you want to show me the material specifications along with that, I'll charge another extra 2,000. If you want to show me all the landscape details like the the greeneries, the common other things, and also let's say suppose the different color variation, okay, so in that case I'll charge another 2,000 extra. So this is kind of mixed charges, but all these three are not very applicable for long run. You can start with this because you'll be at least having some something in your hand to start with. But when you are growing slowly, like after doing 2-3 projects, always try to convince the client first based on the value. And if like he doesn't get convinced by you, then you can go for these options. But always first like try to go with the value based pricing. And like how will you also justify all these things? Because if you are having some kind of quantity based charge idea inside your mind, that okay, let's suppose like any one of you, for example Cyan wants to do some 3D modeling, and he knows that for Cyan to do a 3D modeling, he takes 2 hours. To add the different details, he takes 5 hours. And maybe to add the different texture and try out different materials, he take another 5 hours. So total 12 hours it requires for Cyan to make a complete 3D of a building. So in that case, Cyan may charge 6,000. Let's suppose he's like assuming that okay, this for this much amount of work, I deserve 6,000 rupees. Okay, so now you are gonna, when you are convincing the client from the value based pricing point of view, you are gonna convince him in such a way that he consider this like your pricing should be more than 6,000. So at least you shouldn't come down behind like below 6,000, because in that case you'll be like like you are like less underestimating your own hard work. So that should be the thing inside your mind, and that is how this all value based pricing thing works. And yeah, that is pretty much of it. And actually many people okay, so how many people are still left here? Fine, I had some kind of announcement today, but since most of you are already I think tired because we have gone around over 1 hour. So okay, let's like we can conclude today's session. I'll like announce the thing tomorrow because I was having a very good announcement, and I'll say that tomorrow. So that's pretty much of it. I think you got a pretty good idea about how to charge and how much to charge for your work. And I think also it will help. And also if you are coming across any kind of project or any kind of opportunity, okay, then what you need to do, just take that project. You can discuss with us, like obviously you will be doing the project on your own, but regarding that how much you should price, like how much you should charge on for that particular project, you can discuss that particular thing with me. You are already in the group, don't worry about that. You can drop a message at any time, or you can ping me up as well, and we can discuss related that project, and how I can also help you out how you can give a good contrast to the client, because giving a proper contrast is very important. As I always say that, because ultimately your output would be in the format of a, maybe you are mailing the 3Ds, so you are charging 30,000 for a email. So just think of that. You need to somehow bring a contrast. that no, this is not a value of a mail or not a value of a single JPG file, but this is something which is like important for the entire lakhs of rupees or crores of rupees you are going to invest. So that is the contrast. A contrast between a 30,000 rupees and an email or a piece of paper, and contrast between the 30,000 rupees and the lakhs of rupees he's going to invest. That's how you see the contrast. That's how you see the center of gravity of the conversation, and that is how you charge. Still, if you have some kind of doubts regarding charging and all those things, you can ask me anytime. And I think, yeah, pretty much. So now, by at the end of this today's session, you are like, I think the people who are right now with us, they are able to create some 2D and 3D models as well. And at the same time, they now know how to charge. So like, what are you waiting for? Just go and start freelancing. So if you have any kind of doubts or queries, you can like ask it right away, or we'll see you in the next class. Like, anyone is having any kind of doubts? So like, should we end today's session?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So yeah, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be announcing something good for you all, and also tomorrow we'll have a role play session. So get ready for that. Like, I'll be the client, you'll be the person who is going to negotiate on a project with me, and at the same time you will be the client, and maybe I'll be the architect. So we'll discuss this thing, and like, we'll have a very fun session. And at the same time, this is very important because you can read a book on how to ride a motorcycle, but you cannot ride a motorcycle until unless you actually ride it. Okay, so you have listened to this lecture, you have got something in your mind, but until unless you are into the practical situation, like in a B2B conversation in front of a client, you cannot like throw him some random value-based pricing and all those things. So tomorrow we'll be heading towards that, and we'll be discussing on that. So thank you for joining today's session. Good night.